All right, this is Matthew chapter 5, verses 21 to 26, concerning anger. You have heard that it was said to those of ancient times, "You shall not murder, and whoever murders shall be liable to judgment." But I say to you that if you are angry with a brother or sister, you will be liable to judgment. And if you insult a brother or sister, you will be liable to the council. And if you say, "You fool," you will be liable to the hell of fire. So, when you are offering your gift at the altar, if you remember that your brother or sister has something against you, leave your gift there before the altar and go. First, be reconciled to your brother or sister, and then come and offer your gift. Come to terms quickly with your accuser while you are on the way to court with him, or your accuser may hand you over to the judge, and the judge to the guard, and you will be thrown into prison. Truly I tell you, you will never get out until you have paid the last penny. Okay, so this passage is, for me, it's a very, very profound passage. So we know of the Ten Commandments for Moses, and here in the first verse here, verse 21, it says, you shall not murder. Whomever murders shall be liable to judgment. This is coming from the Old Testament, right? 10 Commandments, right? But then in verse 22, right, Jesus updates, he intensifies on the commandment. So he says, if you are angry, right, you'll be liable to judgment. If you insult, you'll be liable to the council. And if you say, "You fool," you'll be liable to the hell of fire. So Jesus here intensifies and updates the commandment, and he'll do so more when he keeps talking, when he's in the Sermon on the Mount. He's going to keep updating like the kind of rules or his commandments to even up the standard more. But Jesus doesn't want us to only look at our external actions, like if you were to kill someone, murder someone, but also to look at our inner self, our attitudes, our inner way of thinking, not just if we kill someone or not. So Jesus is intensifying the law. He's saying that now, sin is not only if you do something specifically externally through your actions, but it's also through our thoughts and through our words, right? So he's making it even more strict. Here in verse 23, it says, "So when you are offering your gift at the altar, if you remember that your brother or sister has something against you," right? And then it says in verse 24, "Leave your gift there before the altar and go. First be reconciled to your brother or sister, and then come and offer your gift." So verse 23 and 24, this is another tough thing to apply to your life. Honestly, it is. It's something that I'm still kind of working on. But so he's saying, Jesus is saying, before you do any sort of offering, like whether you're doing it in church, giving, for Catholics, we give offerings, we give money, or if you're going to, donate food, or even if you're going to do any acts of personal, spiritual, like self-devotion, like prayer or fasting, even before you do those things, you should aim to mend relationships with others. It is more, he tells us here, literally, leave your gift there before the altar and go. First be reconciled to your brother or sister, and then come back and offer your gift. So he's telling us here to literally prioritize mending the relationship, or trying to make things right before doing any sort of offerings or personal devotions. And so seek forgiveness, right? Seek forgiveness or forgive, whether it's you need to be forgiven or they need to forgive you or apologize, right? Try and mend those relationships. Because if you can't forgive others, then how do you expect Jesus to forgive us? How do you expect God to forgive us if we can't forgive others, right? We have to do the same if we want the same treatment. And then it says here in verse 25, it says, come to terms quickly with your accuser while you are on the way to court with him, or your accuser may hand you over to the judge, and the judge to the guard, and you'll be thrown into prison. So, verse 25, right? It's saying, settle these conflicts, these arguments, these disagreements, quickly as much as possible before things get worse, because things can get worse, and they, sometimes they do get worse. So we don't want it to get to that point, whether if it's some sort of like personal argument or misunderstanding or something financial, any sort of wrongdoing that was done to you or you done to someone else, mentally, physically, spiritually, whatever. You want to try and settle those things before we give offerings to God, because if we don't, then it's not complete. We're not truly trying to be Christ-like. We need to try and become Christ-like, and we do that by being, loving our neighbor like ourselves, loving God with all our heart, soul, and mind. And we can do this by mending our relationships with others. So here in verse 26, the last verse here, truly I tell you, you will never get out until you have paid the last penny. So Jesus uses almost like a financial debt kind of explanation here, to where we can understand easily, right? Where if you're in debt, let's say you have student loans or you have a mortgage to pay or something, you will never be free from that. People will always be requesting that money, or asking for more money on top of that if you're not paying it, until it's fully paid out, until the last penny is paid out, right? The same thing goes with, Jesus is telling us the same thing goes with resolving relationships. The more you wait, whether if it was some sort of personal relationship, a business relationship, whatever it may be, it may not get worse, but it can get worse according to this here. Come to terms with the accuser while you are on the way to court with him, or the accuser may hand you over to the judge, and the judge to the guard, and you'll be thrown into prison. So things can escalate quickly, right? But you don't even want to get it to that point. So resolve them as you can quickly. There's a sense of urgency that Jesus is giving us here. Look for complete reconciliation, not just partial. Don't just say, hey God, like here's all that. It's still good to pray and to give offerings and whatnot, but why not just try your best and go 100% full reconciliation with others and God as well? Once you do that, then nothing will be unsettled, and you'll be more Christ-like.